Hello everyone, you're welcome to The Inside. I am Bable Jonathan. Today we're going to talk about the worsening coronavirus pandemic situation of Cameroon and the 30 years of existence of one of the leading opposition political parties in the Republic of Cameroon, the Social Democratic Front. Meet our guest in some few seconds. Our guest is John Frundi, chairman of the Social Democratic Front, joining us from Georgia in the United States of America. Mr. Chairman, you're welcome to the program.
Thank you.
You have been out of the country for more than 3 months today, at a time when the country is facing a serious crisis, the Anglophone crisis. Before you left, it has been there for close to 4 years today, and now the coronavirus pandemic. Why are you out at this time?
Most Cameroonians know that I have not been well, and my ill health was pushed up by the abduction from the Amber camps, where they abducted me and played with their guns on my head. And I started complaining from Cameroon. I've been to, I used to get myself treated at the Mbingo Hospital, been to the Chishon Hospital, the General Hospital in Bamenda, and with Dr. Njoko in Buwala. I think I've made all the efforts within Cameroon to treat myself, but when the equipment are not there and the doctors have an idea of what they want to do, and what tests they want to conduct, but they don't have the equipment. I have to go somewhere else to look for expert checks. It's not that I undermine my hospitals in Cameroon. I think we have some very good hospitals where people from Central Africa, Gabon and all the like come to attend to do their own medical checks there in Bamenda. So if I'm out here, it's because I've exhausted all the facilities I had within my reach.
How is your health, Mr. Chairman?
It's improving, and as you can see from my face, the face might look tired. Well, it's tired with age, but the health is improving. The unfortunate thing is that with the COVID-19, most of the hospitals here, or all the hospitals, were people with the COVID, and again it was a little frightening that you can go to the hospital and instead get yourself contaminated. So I've not really gone to my medical doctor to give me suffice it to say that the other Cameroonian doctors here, like Dr. Fobi and my son in Switzerland, and the doctor in whose house I am, they've been managing at their own reach, and I'm having some improvement.
Let's talk about the coronavirus pandemic. The figures have continued rising speedily in Cameroon. Your country is today counting more than 5,000 confirmed cases. But first of all, the situation where you are in Georgia and the rest of the United States, how is the situation there?
It's alarming. The situation is alarming. And looking at the United States as a country high up in technology, all that they're doing to get their people tested, with all that they're doing to provide masks for people to wear, they are still dying in their numbers, and they're very concerned because the deaths in America have gone above 100,000 plus, and those infected are above 1 million plus. So with all this, you see that it's not easy at all. This is a worldwide pandemic. You are talking of Latin America, you are talking of Russia, you are talking of Europe, and it's a disease that has affected and touched nearly everybody in the world. So my prayers to the God of life that I worship, that I serve, is that he should look onto the family of man with sympathy.
What about blacks or the Cameroonians and blacks there in the United States of America? Is their situation still worsening?
The African Americans, the black people in America, the black people in America, they are suffering it most. And the death figures from like New York and the other big cities show that the black people have died most. And the call is for them to see what they can do to take care of themselves. But the other accusation is that most blacks here are suffering from diabetes, hypertension, which most of us at a certain age start suffering from. But I think that the governments are doing everything to take care of the people, and I hope that the same thing will happen in Cameroon.
We're getting some information about a black who was killed by an American police officer.
From the pictures we see, he was arrested, and as the police say, they said he resisted arrest. And but we did not see how he resisted arrest. And when the police came, he was knocked down, and the policeman put his leg with all his weight on his neck. And this gentleman was crying, "I can't breathe, I can't breathe." And with the policeman's leg on his neck, the policeman was telling him to stand up and enter the car. When his leg was on his neck. How can you put your leg on my neck and you tell me to stand up, enter the car? So this where some of us found fault with the police, and the other policemen that were there nearby were just looking, and his leg was on this man's neck with his hand in his pocket, and was telling him to stand up and enter the car. So the man cried that he couldn't breathe, and after some time he gave up.
John Fundi, let's come back home to talk about the situation of Cameroon. The COVID-19 figures have been rising speedily, above 5,000 as of now, and the government authorities have been taking a series of measures to stop the spread of coronavirus, but it has continued spreading, killing many more persons. What do you think about the management of this pandemic in Cameroon?
It's unfortunate for we Cameroonians that one of the things that the SDF had complained about so much for so long was the health facilities, educational facilities, and all the like. And with the COVID-19, the call is that people should distance themselves from each other. People should wash their hands, sanitize their hands. And I start thinking of Cameroon. If I tell Cameroonians, please wash your hands, which is what I'm saying, I also have a guilt in my mind, because first, in most places, the water is not there. The water crisis in Cameroon are a thing I know. Unless for these 3 months that I'm out, we have water all over Cameroon, which is not true. And you see, people first hadn't the water to drink before. And today, you have a pandemic that calls on people to wash their hands, calls on people to be clean, to stay safe. But what I would join my voice to tell Cameroonians that they should respect the international norms by distancing themselves, and also washing their hands and wearing face masks. How they have these things is what, you see, I talk with hesitation, because to wear the face mask, you have to have them. And I saw on the video how some people, I think in China or India, were producing face masks, sewing the things and throwing them on the floor, so they might come contaminated. So I think that I will only join my voice to let an appeal to Cameroonians that what affects the American, affects the Indian, affects the Chinese, affects the citizens of the world will be affecting Cameroonians. And so, if, as you rightly say, that the government is making an effort, they should take advantage of the small effort that the government is making and see how they can treat themselves. Then one big appeal I want to make is that Bamenda, where I'm most used to, a Bamenda man will say, Boma, go drink my mimbo. Nah, drink me. That is a very careless statement to make at a time like this, when we say that we should not, and should not underlined, be together, go into crowds. I think that we should respect that, and not a matter of, may I drink my mimbo, die me, may I go drink me my mimbo. Mimbo will not run. When this pandemic will clear, it's not come to stay forever. You still drink the quantity of mimbo you want to drink, than now to say, let me go and drink, as if you don't drink for one day, you will die. Please, I want to appeal to Cameroonians that if they can give up the drinks, give up a certain outlets of things they want to do together for a while to save their lives, I think it will be a good thing for us.
You're talking about the drinking habit of Cameroonians who have become, many of whom have become addicted to beer and alcohol in general, and it has become very difficult for some of them to separate themselves, like you're saying, to abandon the beer parlors and avoid drinking, even in a very critical moment like this, when there is a pandemic sweeping across the country, killing many, and so on. And the government had decided to close bars as from 6 p.m. Beer parlors, entertainment sites not functioning as from 6 p.m. upward, and later on came back to the decision and decided to reopen the bars and the entertainment sites beyond 6 p.m. And since that decision, the figures have been increasing speedily, and now schools are reopening on the 1st of June 2020. What is your take on these decisions taken by government and the impact on the evolution of the pandemic in the country?
My appeal is to the people that they should take their lives into their hands. It's not the government that has your life in its hands. It's you who is facing the pain. It's you who has children as a father that you say, if I do this, die, my children might suffer. So if you have pity and sympathy on those children, please, you can keep off the drinking spots, or preferably you can get the drinks and drink in your home with your family. It's not that you must sit in a bar to drink and all that. You can still go to the bar, buy the drinks, go sit home and drink with your family. What is it that pushes Cameroonians out, that they must sit in a bar to drink and laugh and shout and then die? When you die, who suffers? Your family, your immediate family suffers.
The President of the Republic, Paul Biya, has called on Cameroonians and all persons on the Cameroonian territory to be more responsible, to be more disciplined at this very crucial moment. He did so on Twitter. He did so in his message to the nation on the 19th of May 2020. The Minister of Public Health has been repeatedly saying this in his tweets and in some of his press statements, and all the authorities, the Prime Minister, the DUs, the senior divisional officers. But this message of responsibility and discipline seems to be falling on deaf ears. Many Cameroonians are still not hearing all these calls. So do you think that it was wise for the government to shut down the beer parlors and the entertainment sites regardless of the economic impact?
Well, it's you who said that most Cameroonians are already addicted, and when you close this drinking spots, they will still look for a way to sneak and buy. But if they want to commit suicide, this is committing suicide. If you know that if I go to this place, I might contaminate myself and maybe come back home, contaminate my wife and my children, and we all die, well, it's in your hands. Because if we say that the members of the armed forces should make sure that these places are closed, it might not even work to the fullest. But please, I am humbly appealing to Cameroonians, looking at you straight in the face, in your faces, that please give up just for a short while. Time will come that you will drink all the drinks you need for yourself.
The Minister of Public Health, Dr. Manauda Malachi, recently said that the country is moving into a more complicated situation as far as the COVID-19 pandemic is concerned, and at the same time schools are reopening their doors for students of examination classes, that is in the secondary and primary levels, and for university students on the 1st of June 2020. Is this context appropriate for the return of students and pupils to the classrooms?
Well, when they say that, are the students checked? Have they done their tests to know that they are not contaminated? Or they just want them to go so that those who are contaminated should contaminate the others, and the whole thing will just cover the whole country, and Cameroonians will be dying as ugly chickens in a poultry? I think that more measures should be taken to check on the well-being of the students. Let them have the tests to make sure that they're not. And when they sit in the classrooms, the distancing should be given. Here in America and other developed countries, they're doing online studies, and which is helping quite a lot. But if we come to Cameroon that we're doing online studies, how many families will have the equipment and the gadgets that will be needed for their children to study at home? So I think that the government should look strictly into this and make sure that they take care of the lives of the children, because that is the future that we have.
Government has taken some measures. The ministers of basic, secondary and higher education announced a series of measures, notably limiting the number of students and pupils who will be in school as from the 1st of June 2020. And you are talking about testing. Are you saying that all the students and pupils who return to school should go through a COVID-19 test before getting into the schools?
Well, the test is not in one place. What I'm saying is that if they can make the provision for the medical departments to test the students in their own areas, because we are talking of the examination classes, which means most of the classrooms will be empty and they can space them to sit. And now, being students, people going to school, I think that they'll understand what we are talking better than an ordinary person in the village. So can we, please for once, make sure that these students in a way are tested?
Right. In Anglophone Cameroon, the situation has equally been worsening. The figures have been rising. The two Anglophone regions of the country are now counting more than 170 confirmed cases of coronavirus, and until now, no special measure requested earlier by some political and civil society leaders, including a ceasefire, has been put in place in those two regions. What do you think about this, Mr. Chairman, this aspect of the management of coronavirus by the Cameroon government?
Now, it's unfortunate that Mr. Biya wants to take advantage of the coronavirus thing to maybe extend his activities the way he wants to. But I think that the war in the North and Southwest is a thing that Mr. Biya had planned for a long time. You remember at one time when he toured the country and finally got to Yaoundé, touring the country was just dropping at the regional headquarters and taking off and not even spending a night to talk with the people. When he got to Yaoundé, they gave him a machete and a spear. So Mr. Biya said, if you want peace, be prepared for war. That shocked me because this is a man who had just taught visiting his people. He comes to tell you that if you want peace, be prepared for war. There and then it occurred to me that he was preparing the war against his people. And we've gone through quite a lot of hardy-hoods, especially in the Anglophone, this thing with the launching of the SDF. And when the SDF came up, you know that at one time, they had quite a lot of calls that Mrs. Biya was going to visit Alatanen, Baba, my village, and Bafochu, and then come have lunch in Baba. The road was very bad then. The road had not been graded. And secondly, Mrs. Biya was heavily pregnant. So I said, what is this woman going to do in Baba that he wanted to? But that was when they were now fomenting ideas to attack the Northwest and Southwest. And around that period, they organized a mock attack in town where the officer in charge of the mobile wing unit was not on seat. They called him to say the attacking is coming, you should come immediately. As he was coming, they shot him and killed him to blackmail that a gentleman from Akunolinga was killed by Northwesterners. He died in the Northwest. FRU does not like this and that and all the like. So we have quite a lot of dirty intrigues that have been put up to bring us to where we are.
Mr. Chairman, you're going to tell us in a short while how can a head of state prepare war against his own people, against the very people that he is expected to rule. But first, the coronavirus is getting deep into the two Anglophone regions of the country. And what do you think that government can do beyond what it is doing at the national level, considering the socio-economic and security situation of those two regions?
I've said it before and I'll still repeat it. That it is Mr. Biya who declared the war at the airport, as he declared the war against the Boko Haram at the airport in France. Boko Haram had never attacked Cameroon. They were just abducting people and getting their money. And when Mr. Biya was invited to France, he got to the airport, they said, you have come to France, what are your expectations, Mr. President? He said, we've come to declare war on the Boko Haram. And that very night, Boko Haram attacked Cameroon. The following day again, they cried that we're sleeping us, the peaceful people. They came in their numbers and just overpowered us. And I mean, you know, all these things, I think Cameroonians have not forgotten. So at the airport again, he declared war on the North and Southwest. And I remember that in the Northwest, he was crowned fund of funds. And I'd expected that for a fund to declare war, he sits down with his war cabinet. He could have called the other funds to say, look, the children are doing this, they're doing this. What do we do? And if you don't come up with an answer for me, I will be forced to use my own means to fight them. He just declared war. And when you talk to the administrators, they say, is it the president, chairman, are you saying that is the president who declared the war? I say, well, Mr. Governor, Mr. SDO, it's not the president who declared the war, it is you. He said, me? I say, yeah, of course. Because we like to bite and blow and pretend that things are not the way they are. If he declared the war, he should call off the war. He should bring it to an end. And presently, they've set up the commission for the reconstruction of the North and Southwest. And the members of the international community will be putting monies into these programs. My humble appeal will be that the people of this area should accept the reconstruction, because if a thief steals your things and is running and throws one thing down, pick it and continue chasing the thief. You will not say that, no, I will not take anything, this and that, because before we realize now, the boys will be fighting the companies that have come to will be going to do the reconstructions in the Northwest and Southwest. And when you fight them and destroy their properties, which is what they've done before, we are the biggest losers. Look at the piece of road between Bamenda Up Station and just Babaju there. It takes you 2.5 hours, 3 hours to move that piece of road.
So
in a nutshell, the building companies were there to do their work. And if they had allowed them, they're building the road for us.
In a nutshell, Mr. Chairman, what you're saying is that government should quickly put an end to the war in order to be able to effectively fight another war, which is the coronavirus in those two regions. Is that what you're saying?
I have not minced my words in saying that, sir.
This war has been going on, the conflict has been going on for 4 years. Now the coronavirus is there. It's been there for some weeks today as far as Anglophone Cameroon is concerned, and it's still progressing in those two regions. And I was finding out from you what are some of the immediate actions that government needs to undertake in those two regions.
With the start or the beginning of this war, so many Anglophones ran to Douala, Yaoundé, Bafoussam, in Nigeria, etc. And they're living under unbearable conditions. And this COVID-19 thing affects those people who live under those conditions. So, if we don't put an end to the war for some of these people to return home, and even when they're returning home, they will be returning, some of them, most of them contaminated, because the cases they've had in the North and Southwest came in from Douala and Yaoundé. So I think that we have to start, put our finger to stop it somewhere, somehow, and let the people, let the reconstruction work take place fast, let the people go back to their homes and live under their conditions, because we are in somebody's house in Douala, a one-bedroom house with about 14 people. How do you think that those people will live? How do they eat? How do they drink water? How do they bathe themselves? How can they distance themselves? And there are so many houses will ask. So the problem is squarely on the shoulders of the government. Let Mr. Biya take his responsibility.
Okay, we're going to take a look at what the newspapers reported this week. The press review by Mark Foge will be right back in some few minutes.
The Guardian Post reports on how the Social Democratic Front SDF party contributed to Biya's 38-year stay in power. The Post-Weekender questions the successes, failures and future plans of the Social Democratic Front Party as they celebrate 30 years of existence. The Voice says prison guards torment sick Ambazonian leaders in hospital. The case of Barrister Shufai Bless was highlighted by Ilaria Allegrozi, Human Rights Watch senior researcher for Central Africa. Another edition of The Voice newspaper reports the demise of Molanjo Litumbe, Southern Cameroon senior activist. The Sun says teachers are not happy with government's plan for schools to resume 1st of June 2020 as most of their demands demands were not attended to. Another edition of the Guardian Post says His Grace Samuel Cleader dares government by asking Catholic universities not to resume school June 1st, 2020. The Horizon describes Nuran Fotsing of the PCRN political party as a rebellious member of parliament as she dedicates her own share of car allowance for the fight against COVID-19 in Cameroon.
Thanks, Immaculate Fogwe, for the press review. John Frundi, National Chairman of the Social Democratic Front, is our guest today, joining us from Georgia in the United States of America. Mr. Chairman, you were talking about the reconstruction of the Northwest and the Southwest regions of Cameroon, and you're urging all Anglophones to accept the reconstruction plan of government and facilitate the reconstruction of the villages destroyed by the 4-year-long Anglophone crisis. But you know that there are many Anglophones who are at the extremes, wanting or demanding for nothing less than secession, and there are moderates also who are there demanding for one thing or the other. Do you think that without these demands met, reconstruction can be accepted? Reconstruction can go on?
Now, there is no war without an end. There's no fight without an end. And when people fight and they sit down to talk, it's not because one part has won. I was thinking that the government can come with a win-win situation. And this win-win situation, if the government gives in a bit and the secessionists give in a bit, we'll be able to build our society. Because the leadership, I said this before and they picked it on me. It's not by picking on me that will frighten me. The leadership of the Amazonians outside. They are out here living well. Their children are going to school. They are working. They have money, they are staying in good houses. Now, can you tell me what will happen if this disease falls into the refugee camps, as I said before? We will be the biggest losers, not the people that are out here living well. I know that they fought a fight, they fought well, but there's no fight that they don't sit down somewhere along the line to broker peace. And if they're sitting down to broker peace, we do not count whether we've gotten what we wanted or not. So, but I think, and I'm of that very strong opinion, that the government has to do something. And Mr. Biya's government must bring this war to an end. And when that is done, the Amazonian leaders outside should call their boys out of the bush. I know some of the boys have become so hard-hearted, and they've used the war to enrich themselves. They abduct people and seize monies. And like in Mankon, you have so many camps. When one camp will call you, tell you you're a blackleg, we're watching you, you've done this, you've done that. They take money from you, this camp again takes, that camp takes, and the people have all been impoverished. But if there's that call-off, which people will come back to their senses, and they're doing constructions in the Northwest and the Southwest, the young people will be able to sell their sand. They'll be able to sell their gravels, and the mothers will be able to fry their puff-puff, ripen their bananas and sell to the workers. They'll be able to make some money. But when you just say no, hit your hand on the table and say no until the end, people are suffering more, and they fight a fight without reasoning. I remember when we had to have the last convention in Bamenda, they tried to push us not to have that convention in Bamenda. We should go to Gunda, we should go to Bafusam, or we should go anywhere. But when we insisted and we had the rally in Bamenda, the convention in Bamenda, they said, okay, now that the SDF has insisted to have their rally, their convention in Bamenda, nobody should come out. and they declared a ghost town. We had a convention. Why do we take convention to places? We take convention to places so that the immediate locality should have some small money. People go out, they'll buy something. Oh, I'm from Bamenda, this is what I bought from Bamenda. I'm from Garwa or Marwa or Yaoundé or Douala, this is what I brought in from there. They blocked the people. The market women could not sell anything. And so the people who brought their monies to spend went away with the monies. They will tell you that it's a La Republique. I said, let us put some sense in what we are doing and not kill ourselves in a desperate effort to fight Mr. Bia. When you are fighting with your wife in the house, you cannot take your child to beat your wife with, or your wife cannot take the child to beat you with. Because in between that, the child dies. Who suffers? Is the parent. So, please, I think that we have to bring some reasoning in what we are doing. I remember the last interview I had with Meme for, it opened a can of worms from the Amazonian fighters on me, Frundi. I will still keep saying it. The war has to come to an end. Government gives in, Ambazonia gives in, and we build the place.
For the war to come to an end, both sides must give in, as you are indicating. But the both sides seem to be at the extremes. Nobody is ready to bring down the guns. The government is saying that the army will not return to the barracks. They will not put down their guns because they have to protect the population. They have to protect the territorial integrity of Cameroon. And the separatists on the other side are saying we must continue to fight until we get what we want. We cannot put down our guns in the face of an army that is accused of indiscriminate killing and destruction.
Well, do we commit suicide then? Do we say death to the last man, or will just go and show our necks and they slaughter us? I think if you fight and you reach a point, you can retire and reconstruct and review. Because let us look at it. Who has suffered most in this fighting? They are the local people. And if the people in the bush and those abroad think that they cannot call off the war, and Mr. Bia thinks that he cannot call off the war, I think some of us will be forced to think that we can now call on the people to resist, to defend themselves. We didn't want to come up with this, but they are pushing us to a point where we'll be thinking otherwise. Because I do not see how a little child going to school, they catch and cut the finger. You cut the finger of a child because that child was going to school. You go to school and you kill a teacher of making an effort to teach. You go to the University of Bamenda and you kill the wicked way in which the corpses were mutilated.
If you were 50, you will go to the bush and fight. And today the killings are still continuing. Today the destruction is continuing. The Ngarbu massacre and many other such incidents.
Now, I went to Pinyin and what I saw there was shocking. And looking at it from the Anglo-Saxon approach, where they said they went and encircled these boys and girls in a hotel, which I saw the hotel. And in the Anglo-Saxon approach, if you encircle a place like that, you have to use a megaphone to say that all of you here, you are under arrest, you've been encircled, there's no way you can come out. Please, can you put your guns down and come out through door A, B, or C with your hands on your head and give a count. If from different angles, and the people know that they are under arrest, they could have come out. But they got there, opened fire on the hotel place, and their own emissaries that were amongst these boys two boys and a girl, they ran. They said they saw the leadership running. People are running in the wee hours dark. You already know that they're the leaders. And why some of us got so angry with that, they were killing the people to hide some sort of truth, some evidence. Because a Begin gentleman that they shot him on the mouth was bleeding. His two brothers took him to the Akum Health Center. When he got there, he was admitted. A drip set on him, and the gendarmes came and removed him with the two brothers, went and killed them in Pinyin. What evidence were they trying to hide? It's under these conditions that I said, if I were 50, I could have gone back to the bush to fight.
And there are things happening today worse than that, Mr. Chairman. Today, what is happening? What happened in Garbu? What happened in other places?
Can you excuse me, Jonathan, please? After that, I was abducted myself. They dragged me on the floor. They got me maltreated. Not once. In Mancon, in Seoul, and other people have been butchered like that, their heads cut. So destructions have taken place from both sides. Because if after my abduction you came to interview me, I couldn't have told you that I'll be going to the bush to fight with the boys. Because the boys themselves are fighting the people that were protecting them, that were helping them. Today in the north and southwest, the cocoa farmers, their cocoa is all gone. They burnt the one that the soldiers were doing it and our boys were doing it. I watched the video of a certain General No Mercy killed in Kumba. And a small boy said, look, this man has troubled us so much. This man has troubled us so much. Let me carry this stone, please. Picture me killing him. Let it be on record that I killed. And that was a boy of about 15, 16. With that type of a mind. You understand what they have gone through.
Let's take some interviews, and when we come back in a short while, we will talk about the Social Democratic Front, its 30 years of existence and its struggle for democracy in Cameroon.
Clearly, the government's approach and response to the pandemic is not the right one. To say this is an observation, not a polemic. It means calling on those in charge to the response to rectify the situation. The Prime Minister's decision of 30th April, even if it was based on very high instructions from God, alone knows who, was not well inspired. A female doctor at the Lakentini Hospital in Douala, who is also a member of the National Assembly, who cannot be suspected of being against the government, sounded the alarm on 19 May. She declared that Cameroonians are unconscious in that they no longer respect barrier measures, that the hospital is overwhelmed. Between 50 and 100 patients are now being seen there every day since the relaxation of measures, that the publication of statistics is now regulated. According to the statistical data dated 23rd of May, which with an average growth rate of 10% per week, the progression of COVID-19 infection is exponential in Cameroon, in any case the fattest in the world, in that it is higher than any other country where the contamination is on the rise. Thus, less than a month after the reopening of bars, restaurants and leisure spots beyond 6 p.m., the lifting of restrictions in public transport, and on the eve of the start of the school year, scheduled for the 1st June 2020, Cameroon holds the world record in the dynamics of the evolution of the coronavirus pandemic.
The children should come from home armed with their masks as well as their snacks, because no canteen will be open in any school. They will be able to eat in their classrooms or in front of their classrooms. Remember, a little exercise will not do them any harm, so they can do that, or they can eat in the gardens. Secondly, they have to ensure that the children are washing hands. If you go to the different institutions, you're going to find out what they have done to enable the children wash their hands. After that, they will be able to have orientation in the various classes. And so every teacher is supposed to orient the students. The students are supposed to know who is the head of their class before they come in, so that when they come in, they're going to go straight into their classrooms and take the lessons that they have to take. The state of preparation is very good. First of all, the collaboration between the teachers and the local authorities is very good. You can see that the dissemination of the schools is being done this week also. It has started before, but it's being done this week. And as I said, there's collaboration between various ministries. There are a lot of people who are helping us in the schools. That's not just MINESEC and the government, but there is UNICEF, there is UNESCO, there is Kamer. We are very ready. Just follow us, follow the schools. And here now, I should tell you that it is not in your interest to be looking for faults.
I don't understand why the ministers and those responsible for taking decisions in the sector like education do it without consulting at least the people concerned. Teachers Trade Union in Cameroon are all infiltrated and are now doing things in the whims and caprices of their sponsors and donors, which are the ministers and the delegates. The poor private school teachers have been wallowing in abject poverty for the past 4 months. The government has done nothing, not even an incentive or encouragement or whatsoever. They don't know how they are paying their house rent, their bills, and so on. Other sectors that are more dangerous than school, like the markets, like the social gathering, the bars, and so on, are open. And the Ministry of Health the other day mentioned that we are getting to the complicated phase of this COVID-19 pandemic in Cameroon. What do you make out of this? School resume and put the life of children in danger, but the life of Cameroonians are already in danger with the bars and the snacks open.
First one is to sensitize the population about the risk of this pandemic. This is a growing risk, and it is important that everybody be aware that we are facing a huge risk in our country. The second one is a call to mobilize the police and mobilize gendarmerie in order to bring everyone to respect the law. Where the law today says that everyone should have a mask. Everyone should wear a mask because it's important to protect ourselves and to protect our families.
I've been aware of fire inside these prisons of Douala. This fire, we cannot at this level tell what was the cause of the fire. But when the fire occurred, we've just called all the fire brigades of Douala to come and rescue the prisoners. And when we reach, we have seen that they have made so that all the prisoners go in one side while they are fighting against fire in the other side. But some of them were just wanting to rush and to climb up and to go away of this prison. And we have taken the measures so that all these security forces have been put around this prison. At time, I can tell you that the situation is under control. 3 wounded people, burned people, and 2 that are wounded.
If we want to be victorious as people of God, as administrators, as workers, as Cameroonians, there must be perfect understanding.
You're welcome back. We are still with our guest, the national chairman of the Social Democratic Front, John Frundi, joining us from Georgia, United States of America. Mr. Chairman, your party launched on the 26th of May 1990, clocked 30 years of existence on the 26th of May 2020. And your party has been struggling over the years to improve on democracy, the socio-economic well-being of Cameroon. And 30 years after the party was launched, the socio-political, economic, and even the security situation of the country has not significantly improved. Others even think that it has worsened. What have you achieved for 30 years, Mr. Chairman, in your struggle?
Well, I want to thank all members of the SDF who've withstood it for these 30 years. Congratulate them for a fight well fought. And that within these 30 years, if we never came, Cameroonians couldn't have known what we were wading through, because it is because the SDF came that people were able to express themselves and talk and even realize what they're doing. In Parliament, the parliamentarians have done a marvelous job to come out with things that were never known before. As I talk about parliamentarians, I want to halt here a bit and express my deepest condolences to the families of late Joseph Mbandam, who was a fighter on the floor of Parliament, who was a seasoned lawyer, and I think he died out of stress because his convoy going to Batibo was badly attacked by people who said that he had collected 1.5 billion from government and given me. So for these 30 years, the SDF has gone through quite a lot of blackmail, where they tried to derail me, failed. They blackmailed me. Oh, you see, Frundi is whining and dining with the CPDM. We are insiders, we are telling you. He's whining and dining with the CPDM. Oh, they've given him monies. He has 64 billion in his account. Oh, he's bought a house in Britain. He's bought. So all these blackmail stories came. And I want to say it here, point blank and clear, that I am worshiping a God of justice. And all those people who tried to blackmail to destroy the future of the Cameroonian people by blackmailing me, that God of justice will answer them. Because the last one during these last elections, they said they gave me 1.5 billion. And for instance, the Amber boys in the bush were calling me, Mr. Chairman, they said they've given me 1.5 billion, send our own money, send our own money. They harassed the hell out of me, and I was almost running nuts. So within these 30 years, Cameroonians, so many of them have discovered themselves. So many still think that is blackmail, is a affair of money.
Mr. Chairman, on the allegations, Mr. Chairman, on the allegations.
Let me make it abundantly clear here, sir.
All right,
that
go
I came
ahead.
into politics selfless, and I'll be doing politics selfless because I left my business. My wife died in the politics. They've burned my compound, destroyed all my things. I've lost over 400 animals, and I didn't fight to go to Parliament. I didn't fight to go to Senate. I didn't fight to be a mayor. I never fought to be anything. I came into politics selfless because the future was my concern. And in this future, for your information, Jonathan Babila, I planted trees. I planted fuchuk, over 40,000, because I believe that you have to invest to get what you want, and not to sit down, blackmail people and think that you can. And when he met with me in Bamenda, he said, Mr. Chairman, I'm happy to meet you for the first time. So even from within the SDF, people are saying that they bow down their heads. So I think we've gone through the hell of it, but thank God that we're still together. I lost another celebrated parliamentarian, Joseph Banazim, who was an astute parliamentarian, and he did the best he could. The SDF has, within the floor of parliament, sang songs. Today, when people are demonstrating, they're singing and telling you now how many people they were killed. All these things, all these songs were started on the floor of parliament because the SDF was there.
On the allegations, Mr. Chairman, can you tell us today that for the past 30 years, you as the national chairman, you as the party, you have not received a dime from the CPDM, from the Yaoundé administration, from the presidency, for one reason or the other?
They give us monies for elections. They give the parliamentarians have 10% that they give to the party, and all this money is put together. People say Frundi does not know how, we don't know how he's spending the money. We don't know what's happening. But for 30 years, the SDF has taught Cameroon. I was talking of 20, but my boys calculated and told me that I've taught Cameroon 20 times in 30 years. 20 times in 30 years. When I'm going out for a tour, whatever money the party gives me, I get an accountant to move with me and dispense the money. I will not go stand at the petrol point and be paying for petrol, or stand at hotels with paying for hotel bills. They pay this, come and tell me, let's go, we move. So when you say for 30 years, the Yaoundé regime has not given you money, they've given us, when we are going in for elections, they give monies, and these monies are not hidden. For instance, one of the presidential elections under former Prime Minister Noni Ephraim, who is in prison now, he first announced that they'd given the SDF 700 million. People went amok. Oh, they've given money, please, let us have our own money. I want to be this, I want to be that. From there, they reduced it to 400 million. And after they gave us 40 million, what was 40 million going to do for a presidential campaign, for me touring the whole country within 2 weeks? So these are the type of things that, as I said before in the earlier part of this interview, they thought if we cannot get Frundi, let us blackmail him that he has money. And from the office of a lawyer in Yaoundé there, they concocted a story that I had 64 billion in my account in Britain. So these are the blackmails that Frundi has gone through all his life. But in the midst of this, the parliamentarians have worked, the mayors have worked, the senators are doing their best.
What have they achieved? What have they achieved, Mr. Chairman, as far as the Anglophone crisis is concerned? You were talking about the struggle in Parliament, but till today, what they have been struggling for has not been granted by Parliament, and the Anglophone crisis has continued worsening for close to 4 years today.
Yeah, I'm surprised to have that question from you, Jonathan Babila, a seasoned journalist who knows what has been done and is being done. Because without the SDF in Parliament, I don't think that the Anglophone crisis will come. How did the Anglophone problem start? It's when Mr. Biya called us for a tripartite talk, and they set up a commission to write the constitution for Cameroon. It was in this constitution that Benjamin Etwe, Carl Sinanyangwe, Elat, Monzo, and I think there were about 7 Anglophones in that commission, who said that they should come up with a federal constitution. Joseph Owona said no, it was a single constitution that had no federalism in it. That's where the problems started. So without the problem is still there, these things to come.
And the problem is still there till today, Mr. Chairman. And the SDF has continued struggling over the years.
You as journalists, you are still there fighting. We as politicians are still there fighting. So you thought that it was going to be to offer it in a platter of gold to you. When we launch a party, we say democracy cannot be given to you on a platter of gold, and we're still fighting for it.
Mr. Chairman, what do you think? What do you think about the Social Democratic Front 30 years after it was launched today? It's almost at the 4th position as far as with regards to results of the last presidential election, where your candidate obtained a very poor result, so to speak, and the party has barely 5 parliamentarians, I think so today, and some few councils. What has happened to the Social Democratic Front?
Even all the political parties in Cameroon, from the CPDM to the satellite parties that they formed, have all been fighting the SDF. Even with the Anglophone issue on the field now, it's the SDF that they fought more. The way they fought Bandam going to Batigo, they've never fought any group coming to the northwest the way they fought Bandam going to Batigo. And if Bandam died the way he died, to my opinion, from shock. The shock. And if there was only one parliamentarian in parliament from the SDF, that parliamentarian will be there and will take the message of the SDF across, that the democracy, the institutional change that we're fighting for has not been gotten yet. We're still on fighting. What
will you tell those who think that John Fundi has sold the party and has escaped to stay abroad?
Yes, they're misguided. It's they who are sellers. It's they who sold themselves. Because if Mr. Biya could win all of Northwest, all of Southwest, and people are crying that he's killing our children, he's doing this and that, you still go vote for him. Who is the seller? Is it not they who have still voted Mr. Biya?
What are the future plans of the SDF, Mr. Chairman?
But nobody voted for him. And today, you can't tell me that Fundi has sold out his SADC. For 30 years, I never went even on holidays. Let the SDF people tell me if I ever went on holidays. I'm here because I'm sick. And if I'm sick, I have to treat myself. But if people think that it's just a matter of money, Fundi has sold, they've given him monies. At one time, I was very convinced that if you told a Cameroonian, Bo, good morning, he said, it's good morning, give me money, give me money. On the lips of the Cameroonian, from you, the journalists, to the politicians, to the local people, it's all money, one money, and you cannot. But it's Fundi who came out with his hands bare.
In so few seconds, Mr. Chairman, what are the future plans of the SDF?
We are on and we are moving on. And the future is very bright for the SDF people. I want to wish them God's richest blessings.
John Fundi, National Chairman of the Social Democratic Front political party, joining us from Georgia in the United States of America. Thanks for accepting to be our guest in this edition of The Inside, Mr. Chairman.
Well, thank you too for fishing me out. As people say, I've escaped from where I've escaped and I'm hiding. But I'm here on treatment and I hope to join the people soon.
Thanks, ladies and gentlemen, for staying with us. That's it for today.
Thank you.